Hello, my name is Tom Wilson, and welcome to How to Create the Life You Want. As you know, this is based on my new book, Next Stage, and we'll highlight many information and stories as we go through each of the 7 sessions. This is the first session, and this will be focused on an overview of understanding what are the dynamics that have led us to this particular unique and particularly interesting time of life. This is the first one of the 7 series, session 1. And today, as I said, is about an overview. So let's get started to talk about what this really means as we enter this next stage of life. 20 years from now, you will be more disappointed by the things you didn't do than by the ones you did do. So throw off the bow lines, sail away from the safe harbor, catch the trade winds in your sails, explore, dream, discover. Thank you, Mark Twain. One of the things I really love about this quote is I do all things that Mark Twain does. He captures perhaps like no others, a central concept idea in a very clever wrapping. And this is the idea that as we move into this stage of life, it's important to really reflect on the things that we haven't done that are left unfinished. And what are those things that we need to do in order to make our life complete? And that will mean, obviously, doing some things differently. It will mean doing some things similar to what you have been doing because it's really working for you, and letting go of those things that you no longer need or be attained to. It's a great quote from Mark Twain. As you enter this stage of life, when you're moved beyond work, even though you still may have a job, perhaps your children have moved on to their own homes, or they're staying at home. They're no longer really interested in what mom and dad have to think, into a life that is broad and open and frankly to be determined. This is perhaps the first time in your life when no one is telling you what to do. Your job is, or soon will be, in the rearview mirror. Your kids are more focused on their own lives. And you're finding it both scary and exciting. The challenge is that you're closer to the end of life's journey than to the beginning. You will be making choices, conscious or not, about how you live your life. This awareness of your own responsibility to yourself is very important. And my wish for you is that when it comes to that time when you are in your last days, that you look back on yourself and you say, this life of mine, it was well lived. In my research, I found a fascinating study on happiness and the common characteristics of people who feel very satisfied with their lives. It was called the Midas Projects, as led by a group of scientists and researchers at the University of Wisconsin. This is perhaps one of the largest studies of its kind on what determines happiness. I found that these principles are highly consistent with my own findings for people in this stage of our life, and they provide some important insights in terms of what is important, in terms of what's important in our lives. They conducted research on thousands of people for many years to identify the characteristics of those who were the happiest. Their findings provided this guidance to us as we think about reinventing our life. They found that people, the first one, they have a sense of direction, a sense of purpose, a sense of things that they need to do, want to do in their life. They're excited, focused, engaged in things that relates to their life. We all know that we've got strengths and weaknesses, and there's a point in time in your life, perhaps it's now, when you know who you are and you are who you are. There's a great deep level of self-acceptance. And the one thing I appreciate is that you're no longer looking for approval from others. You don't need a boss to tell you what's right or wrong, or a parent or anyone else. You have a great sense of autonomy and independence. While no one really has mastery over one's environment, there is a sense of confidence that what you have, that what you have the capabilities to address most circumstances. Perhaps this pandemic plague that we've been dealing with is one of those things that you found a way to adjust yourself to live comfortably in this environment as best you can. There's a sense of confidence that you can take over, you can deal with most of the challenges that you might be facing. There's also a sense that we're growing, we're learning, we're developing, we're evolving. There's a sense of personal growth that is consistent with what we want to do in a sense of purpose. And obviously, finally, not least important, is that we have lots of positive relationships. As you enter this stage of life that some people call retirement, you will likely have 20 or 30 years of useful, important life ahead of you. The old concepts of retirement are changing. It's no longer a period characterized by rest and relaxation. You don't disengage in this world, but your life will change. Let me ask you a question. Say to yourself, I'm now retired, or I am retired. How does this make you feel? What is it goes on when you think about that word, a retirement in terms of your own life? Does it make you uncomfortable? Does it make you what exactly? We're healthy, curious, growing people who want to make a difference in this world. We are redefining what this stage of life means and what we can do with this newfound freedom. You know, this is a unique time in history. There are 10,000 people today turning 65. One way you could look at it is that you're not alone. One of the most interesting findings about individuals at this age is that we can now see our life as that it has been composed of a series of stages. For this book, I developed 10 stages to describe a lifetime. We passed through our adolescence and being a teenager, the wild and restless 20s, being a soccer mom or dad, pursuing our career ambitions, and more. So this is just frankly another stage. Today we're entering or living in a stage that I call reinventing adulthood. We are taking what we know and have experienced, and we are reinventing ourselves. We're no longer defined by what we do. We are no longer defined by what we did, but by who we are. We have an opportunity to redefine that message. But as I said in the beginning, we are making choices and decisions, whether we are aware of them or not, about how we live our life. The challenge ahead will be different than the ones we have faced in the past. This is truly a unique stage of life. Understanding our life in stages is also important for another reason. Erik Erikson, a renowned scholar and researcher on developmental psychology, did not focus much on the stages of the adult experience, but he taught us something important. This message is also embedded in many religious teachings. In each stage of life, before we can move on to the next stage, we must learn something important. That this learning both helps us be successful in that particular stage and prepares us for the next. Each stage is like a building block where we experience and learn many things, and that this helps us to progress in our life. So let's look at an example. Let's look at how a child learns to sleep through the night. According to Erikson, a child learns to sleep when he or she learns to trust that mom or dad will come and provide needed nurturing. Trust is a fundamental skill that is learned in this experience and is necessary for us to experience love, relationships, and hope. So, what must we learn in this stage, this reinventing adulthood stage, that will prepare us for the next stage, which I call the consolidation stage? This is that period of time in our life when we frankly won't be able to get around as much as before. Our world will be much smaller and simpler and just more consolidated. So, what is it that we need to do in this particular stage that prepares us for the next and enables us to be successful in this particular stage? I believe that while this is different for every person, there are some common messages that I've learned in my research. There are certain things that we need to do, to complete, to let go of, to create the desired direction that you want for your life. In this journey, you'll find your sense of purpose, discover your autonomy, create your community, find appreciation and hope. As people enter this next stage, some can't wait to leave their current employers or leave their professional activities because they have many things they want to do. They relish the free time and the choices that await them. They have long lists of places to travel, people to see, golf or tennis scores to skills to improve, books to read, and naps to take. On the other hand, there are those who dread leaving their current workplace or professional activities. Work provides a meaningful place to be, a feeling of importance, a place to go to get up each morning and have something clear to do. They like the idea of an identity, of working on a very important activity, and they're really proud of this. They see the future as a big, dark hole and wonder what they will do. They probably know someone who died within 6 months of leaving their job. What does their future hold? Suzanne, who was one of my interviewees, said to me, after I retire, where will I go and what will I do? My work and my family have been the center of my existence. Most of us, frankly, are somewhere between. We are feeling both. We have ideas of things we want to do now, and now that we have more time. We like more than a 2 or 3 week vacation and are able to find courses or courts that are not so crowded. We like the freedom, no longer commuting or missing dinners for some stupid meeting. At the same time, we miss the people we used to work with and the challenges we face each day. Work provides many things that enrich our lives. It gives us a sense of accomplishments and achievements and challenges, keeps us going with new things each day. But what do we do now? We feel caught in the middle of a paradox, wrapped inside a conundrum. Many questions emerge. In my interviews and in my research, there seem to be some central themes that are starting to evolve. We may have had parents who've lived a long life or a short life. What does our genetic clock tell us about how much time we have left on this planet? Each one of us has important questions or issues to resolve as well and prepare us to accept the changes that we face. As I mentioned in the interviews, I found for my book, I found a series of questions that kept emerging. The questions were simple, but they were somehow deep and profound. What do you want to do with your time? This is trying to get at your sense of purpose. Do you have a sense of action or direction or things that you want to do so that you don't become bored or depressed? Will you have enough money? How will you know if you have enough? How do you project what your expenses will be, what your income will be? You'll be shifting your source of money and that you live on from earning wage into return on your investments. So it's an investment-based sources of income. So how does that apply to your expenses? Relationships change. Who do you want to live with? We find that as we move out of a workplace environment, our community changes, both the close ones and those who provide our group. So as we look at relationships, we also realize that they're very important. It goes with health. How do you stay healthy? It's interesting in my discussions that people have started thinking of health as like their infrastructure that enables them to do the things they want to do. And both health and money were the areas where people had the greatest sense of fear and uncertainty. Who are you going to be? This is looking at your lifestyle and your identity. This is where you live, how you live, and how do you answer the question when somebody says, so what do you do? Do you say, I'm retired and that's all? What is it that you do to define your identity? To my interviewees, some of these questions were core issues to them, and others were, well, frankly, less important. Each person has a different set of views of challenges that they are facing, but they share these common areas of exploration and concern. I want to close with a wonderful quote, something for you to remember. The greatest potential for growth and self-realization is in the second half of life. Thank you, Carl Jung. This is a challenging and an exciting time of life. It is a wonderful opportunity. As I said earlier, you will be making decisions, whether you are aware of them or not, about how you live your life and how your life will be different. You are in a next stage, and this is the time to make the most of it. Let me ask you a question. If not now, when? I welcome you to this journey and look forward to sharing what I've learned on mine, and I look forward to hearing you, hearing from you, and sharing our insights along the way. So the next next sessions in this series, we will look at each of those 5 questions: time, purpose, financials, relationships, health, identity. And in each of those sessions, they'll be about maybe 10 or 15, maybe 20 minutes long. I'll review some insights from the research that I received and for things that people taught me in my interviews, and share some wonderful stories. And I'll also ask you to do a little exercise with me, and that will help you to get a sense of your own sense of purpose or financial conditions or whatever. And then as we work through each of these sessions, the last session will be used for building a master plan. This will take the learnings that we had from the previous sessions and try to build a plan that will help you, as I said, create the life that you want. So this ends our first session, and I hope you found some particular perspective about seeing your life now in a stage, that this is an important stage, that there are certain things that you need to do, that we all need to do, to really get the most from this particular time, as well as to prepare you for the next. There's a lot of changes ahead of, some of which are going to be welcomed, some of which are going to be challenging, but we're going to do this together. And hopefully this series will help you, guide you, and provide you with some of the roads and travels and pathways and ideas of things that you can use to do what I believe is really important: create and live the life that you want. So see you for the next session. Please join me, and I look forward to your time. I hope you have a great day. Thank you very much.